everybody, Laura here. Thanks so much for joining me. Today we are talking about partial die cutting, but we are kicking it up a notch and we are doing what I call double partial die cutting. Not one, but two. And this is a really fun technique, and once you do it, you'll fall in love with it. And I love creating windows in my panels, and this is a great way to do it. So I've got a panel of tropical teal cardstock. I've got a Hugs word die from the Big Hugs. I'm lining them up where I want to go, and that's a matte stack one die, and I'll take a ruler along the bottom of that Hugs word die and draw a line with a pencil. This is going to act as a guide. This is where we want our partial die cutting to stop. So I'm going to put the Hugs die, I want to die cut that one first. So I'm taking a little bit of Post-it tape to hold it steady. We want to make sure it stays nice and parallel. And then the key to partial die cutting is that your top cutting plate will be where your die cutting stops. So I'm push that through and I'm lining it up with our pencil mark line. Now it's going to be a little bit hard for you to see, but there's a little smidgen still hanging out of that Hugs word die. You can't see it very well, but you can see it's just a smidgen hanging out, and that part will not cut. And you'll see here once I run it through, I'll show you how it die cut everything except for the little bit at the bottom. See that? Perfect. That's exactly what we want. And now we're going to take that off and we're going to do our matte stack. Now this one's a little bit more difficult because it's not see-through, so you can't see exactly where you're placing it. So I just run it down, see where my Hugs word is, and just push it up just a little bit above it. I'm kind of, guessing here. Hopefully it turns out okay. So we're going to line this up again with that pencil mark line that we made on the front panel of the tropical teal. And we line that up with that top cutting plate and run it through, and everything below the cutting plate will not die cut. This is really cool. So this is what you call double partial die cutting. Now I got to find a way to do triple. We always got to kick it up a notch. Is that even possible to do triple? I don't know. Anyway, okay, so see here, you got both of them die cut and they both stopped at that pencil mark. So now what you have to do is take your X-Acto knife and a ruler and you have to trim off that excess along the bottom. But you want to make sure not to cut through your letters because you want your letters to remain intact to your front panel. It's a little bit tricky, but it doesn't take very much time at all. And it's just along that straight edge of the ruler, so it's very simple. And once you get that, then everything else should pop out. Just reinforce all your little corners with your X-Acto knife. Sometimes that is what makes it stick. Just the little corners you got to make sure that are all trimmed up nice, and everything else will pop out. So you got this cool window with your word sentiment. And I'm going to pop that up on a white card base. But first, I'm going to take a pencil. I wanted to say, but first, let me take a selfie. No, I'm sorry. Okay. But first, I'm going to take a pencil and draw just slightly where that opening goes, because I'm going to do some fancy schmancy ink blending behind that front panel. Now, one thing that I love about tropical teal is that it looks so gorgeous with kind of a sunset color behind it. And I'm going to just mask off the sides. I don't want to get any ink blending on the sides of my card because that's going to show through when we mount our front panel. But anyhow, I'm doing some orange zest, some summer sunrise, and some harvest gold. Yes, it's like a Hawaiian sunset behind your tropical teal. Yeah, it all goes so well. You got to have a Hawaiian sunset behind your tropical teal cardstock. I mean, it's meant to be. And me and ink blending, we're like peanut butter and jelly. I like do it on every card. I can't not do it. It's just, I love it. And I love to do an ombre, going from a dark to a light. It's just delicious. Anyhow, so I just keep working it here and going back and forth between the yellows and the oranges, trying to get a nice, smooth, seamless blend between my colors. This could also work with some different color choices as well. Like you wouldn't have to do orange to the yellow. You could do like hibiscus burst or raspberry fizz hibiscus burst into sweet blush. You could get like a pink thing going too. Anyhow, my mind's always working with color choices. I like to go from dark to light. So I'm taking my little embossing buddy because I'm going to emboss a sentiment, a coordinating sentiment that goes from that Big Hugs stamp set. I'm stamping that with a Versamark ink, and then I will use some Simon Says Stamp white embossing powder. And this is great embossing powder. It gives you really fine detail because this is a tiny little sentiment with tiny little letters. So you want to make sure that you use an embossing powder that gives you fine detail. Okay, so once we got our sentiment all heat embossed, I put some foam tape on the back side. We're going to pop this up. You gotta pop up your window. What good is a window if it's not popped up? You know what I'm saying? You gotta pop it up. So then I took the sending sentiment that's also from that stamp set. I'm stamping that in black. And this is pretty much finished. I'm just going to embellish it with a few little flowers and buttons. These are the, what are they? The button stacks or the bitty button stacks. There's so many different kinds now, I get them confused. But I used some of those with some raspberry fizz and orange zest and summer sunrise cardstock and some coordinating buttons. And I feel like I don't hardly use my buttons as much anymore, but I still do love how they look. Looks really great here. Just a few little accents. And this card is finished. This is double partial die cutting. Give it a try. You will love it. Thanks so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.